Welcome, Bravehearts, to the emotional chemistry of cancer, disease, and healing. The following information I'm about to share with you today has been put together from my 40 years of in-the-trenches healthcare experience and research. I believe we have entered a time of medical tyranny that I'd like to call medicalization. Let us never forget that all beliefs and systems have a life of their own, and the more you feed them, the more they grow. When they are based on unconditional love for ourselves and each other, they heal, unite, and make us stronger, individually and as a nation. But when they are based on fear, greed, and power, remember, whatever you feed will eventually feed on you. This is the disease that suffocates the spirit, that eventually rots the mind and then the body. Always remember, where the mind goes, the body must follow, without question. Whoever masters your mind masters your body. And that is universal law. Look it. This brings us to the issues in our tissues, otherwise emotional blocks that eventually become physical blocks that are crippling all human beings today. We have discussed how the human body is a vessel for frequencies, but what if these frequencies do not harmonize but terrorize us all the way down to the cellular level? When we are unable to process negative emotions, all cell breaks loose. We have already shown this in detail in the A to Z Wellness Guide and Masterclass series on how issues in your tissues form crystallization, internal scar tissue, and calcification in your tissues, joints, and organs. Today we are going to go deeper and show you how the invisible creates the physical and that psychological always trumps the biological. So together, let's uncover and discover the emotional intelligence of cancer, disease, and healing, and unravel what the medical system calls a mystery, which, by the way, is the ultimate power of your self-healing. Until we are willing to accept the truth that most medical health care is based on fraudulent science, we will never have the power to heal ourselves or our family. Conventional medicine views the immune system as a defense system against microbes and cancer cells. Medical science believes a weakened immune system is the major cause of all disease. Conventional medicine views our body as a battlefield, a war zone, where antibodies and white blood cells constitute an army of killer cells ready to attack the enemy. Understand, we're attacking ourselves. Understand, the fantasies of modern medicine have no limits. This is how they turn us from thrivers into survivors. Cut, poison, and burn, and repeat. Look, if you do not believe that we are creating our own diseases on an unconscious, subconscious level, then why is it that 86% of the population suffers from an autoimmune disease? Do you know what the definition of an autoimmune disease is? It is a condition where your immune system mistakenly attacks your own body. But let's be clear about this. Disease is not genetic, it's epigenetic, and this is a scientific fact. So I believe the real definition of an autoimmune disease is attacking oneself with dysfunctional beliefs on a subconscious level. The reality of our health is always based on our personality, which is based on the programs that we run, which are based on the beliefs that we have been taught throughout our whole life. How does it feel to not be in control of your health? This will continue until you understand that where the mind goes, the body must follow. You must view your mind as a beautiful garden that must be weeded of sick, unhealthy beliefs. Society's systems say we have a choice, but this is a lie we will uncover today. You do not have a choice until you understand and awaken to the fact that self-care and self-love is the only way to navigate on this planet we call planet Earth. And understand, today we operate on an emergency care system. To make my point, cancer is not a death sentence. It's a wake-up call. to the fact that you've been emotionally and physically out of alignment on an unconscious level for most of your life. This is not your fault, but it is your responsibility to wake up and realize that only you hold the power to self-healing, that self-healing that you seek. And this power of self-healing can only be powered by self-love and self-care. We continue to go to war with ourselves and each other, or we can learn to love ourselves well by creating the perfect day each and every day. Listen, get started by going to my library, and that is library/dockofdetox.com, and click on the 4 pillars of the perfect day and get yourself started. So let me share with you my answer to cancer, disease, and healing. Let's start off with cancer and amazing microbes. Listen, cancer is a meaningful, life-saving biological process, and the microbes that we believe to be the enemy play a supportive role in the healing of all disease. The immune system does not exist. What does exist, though, is a perfect biological system, a support system, rather than a defense system created to assist us while we are healing. This support system includes the antibodies, white blood cells, microbes, and countless other chemical and hormonal processes. Now let's talk about the purpose of our amazing microbes. The main purpose of microbes is to maintain our tissues and organs and keep them in a vitally healthy state throughout our whole life. In fact, every newborn baby receives from the mother's milk the tubercular bacteria, which indicates the significance of the TB bacteria. What I'm about to tell you may turn your beliefs upside down and backwards, but in the healing phase of cancer, fungi and TB bacteria help to remove and break down fibroids and tumors. Wow. What do you think of that? Tissue cells from a tumor are known as disposable cells. They differ in size and shape from the original cells. These microbacteria can differentiate disposable cells from the original cells and decompose only the cancer cells. Tubercular bacteria are truly remarkable because the moment we have a conflict shock, the tubercular bacteria start multiplying parallel to the tumor growth. This is nature at its finest. These TB bacteria are what I call terminator bacteria. Their job is the disposal of fibroids and tumors, but if you are unaware of this fact and decide to attack them with antibiotics and other toxic therapies, they will turn on you. The healing symptoms from this process are discharge, night sweats, swelling, pain, inflammation, fever, and severe fatigue. Look, depending on what organ is healing at the time will depend on where and how the tumor waste is discharged. During this healing, we will see and experience TB infections in the lungs and the colon, and candidiasis infections in the mouth, colon, and or vagina. Infections are not really diseases. Did you get what I just said? Infections are not really diseases, but rather symptoms of healing. The intensity of these healing symptoms are always determined by the intensity, depth, and the length of the conflict created by the negative emotions or dysfunctional beliefs that cause the disease in the first place. I hope you're getting this. And just know this, every intense conflict will cause an intense healing process. The solution lies in not attacking the microbes, but rather focusing on raising the frequency of the tissue so that we can create a healthier inner terrain. If the armies of microbes within your body have been destroyed by drugs, such as antibiotics, the tumor will not be eliminated, but will become encapsulated so that it is isolated from the body. This is the medical system's way of treating the disease, not nature's way. Look, Louis Pasteur stated on his deathbed, "The bug is nothing, the inner terrain is everything." Every disease is created by nature to assist the host back to vital health. And let us never forget, that we are walking, talking globs of bacteria, and that our bacteria also assist in the reconstruction of new healthy tissue growth each and every moment of our life. Our body is made up of 50 trillion cells and 500 trillion bacteria. So who's really in charge? You must also realize that the large intestine is known as the second brain, and the second brain is actually your good bacteria that reside in your large intestine. Just know that when you go to war with your bacteria, you're going to war with yourself. You've been programmed on a subconscious level to unconsciously attack the second brain, your immune system, your bacteria. And let me leave you with this one life-saving fact. Antibiotics should only be taken in life-threatening situations, or you will be creating a life-threatening situation for the rest of your life. Let's talk about the germ theory. What is the standard medical theory? The standard medical theory of infectious disease is that all diseases are caused by pathogenic disease causing microorganisms. So let me ask you a question before we move on. What came first, the mosquito or the swamp? Louis Pasteur's theory is called the germ theory. Louis Pasteur lived from 1822 to 1895. In 1995, Professor Gerald L. Geeson from Princeton University published a book called The Private Science of Louis Pasteur. Based on Pasteur's original laboratory notes, Gerald Geeson discovered that Pasteur had in fact published fraudulent data. Like that never happens in medical science. Anyways, Professor Gerald Geeson revealed to the world that Pasteur had conclusively committed scientific fraud. Professor Geeson was not the first to expose Pasteur as a fraud and a liar. Ethel Hume also exposed Pasteur as a fraud in 1923 with an article published called Pasteur Exposed. Also in 1940, R.B. Pearson published a book called Pasteur Plagiarist, Imposter. So despite the fact that Pasteur's theory is wrong, conventional medicine and medical science still propagate Pasteur's false germ theory because it serves their agenda and nothing else. The reason why this continues today is because the pharmaceutical companies continue to mass produce antimicrobial drugs and vaccines. The pharmaceutical corporations are creating massive profits and massive deaths based on a scientific hoax, which is in collaboration with the FDA, United Nations, the World Health Organization, the NIH, and let's not forget the media that are owned and controlled by the so-called elite and banksters. Antoine Béchamp, he lived from 1816 to 1908. Okay, he stated microbes are part of the inner environment of the organism. Microbes assist the metabolic process of the body. Microbes become only pathogenic when the organism is out of balance. Then and only then they become disease-causing agents. The inner terrain is everything. The inner terrain decides what and who lives within it. Microbes play a supportive role in all healing processes of diseases. The brain is the mediator of your emotions and your body. First and foremost, end of story. Your brain will either be a mad scientist or a beautiful creator. You get to choose. And just know this, fear, panic, and anxiety are the main triggers that activate the dysfunctional belief systems within the subconscious that create the shock, trauma, conflict that we call disease today. Yeah. The longer and the more intense the conflict, the more physical damage will be done to the body, and the longer and the stronger your healing process will be and take. I hope you're getting this. This is just logical. Listen, relationships are everything, especially the one you have with your body. The medical system, along with the pharmaceutical system, have taught us to dishonor our body by no longer recognizing what the healing phase of our conflicts truly are. The most important language you will ever learn is called body talk. For more information, please go to www.newworldpractitioner.com if you wish to perfect the art of true healing. If you wish to go and find the true practitioner from within, your authentic healing self. Listen, diseases do not originate in the body. They originate in the mind, first and foremost. The seed of disease is planted in the subconscious mind by dysfunctional beliefs that eventually make up your map of reality, which shapes your personality. The brain, otherwise the mind, initiates the biological conflict. I hope you're getting this. It initiates the biological conflict we call disease, but only after the emotional conflict triggers it. So the emotional conflict is the trigger. The longer and the more intense the conflict, the more likely one is to lose their life, to lose their health, such as with a heart attack. If the conflict lasts for more than 9 months, the heart attack may be fatal, not just a wake-up call. We must remove the traumatic triggers that activate and motivate conflict. Conflict resolution through the Braveheart way is the only way. We must downgrade the panic to minimize the emotional and physical destruction by connecting to our Lionheart breath and erasing and replacing lower vibrational beliefs as soon as possible, because this erases disease, otherwise dis-ease, and replaces it with the ease of life. So understand something. As long as you're going to push the panic button, the more you do it, the longer you do it, the more you are going to suffer. You cannot emotionally abuse your body and not physically abuse it and then pay with a healing crisis. Look, for more information, go to library/docofdetox.com and click on Braveheart Emotional Intelligence for Life. Look at one of the most damaging dysfunctional beliefs that people live with day in and day out is that pain is the enemy, when in actual fact it is your body's greatest gift. Pain is your body's built-in GPS that is warning you when you are out of alignment on a physical and emotional level and unconsciously killing yourself. Without this GPS, I know that I would be dead already. And I am not kidding. You know, if I wasn't full-time into health, I don't know what would have happened to me with all the dysfunctional beliefs that I had that I didn't know I even had. Just remember, whatever you feed gets bigger. Whether it be love or fear, when you feed negativity, someday it will feed on you. Thought form always becomes physical form. Wake up, Braveheart. Find your roar. Look it. Dis-ease originates within dysfunctional beliefs, and fearful emotions are the driver. It's called react, attack. But once you become aware that your life is all about the programs you run, or should I say the programs that run you, you will awaken to this life-changing fact that it is within you to heal you and stay healed, because all healing is self-healing, where the invisible creates the physical, where the psychological always trumps the biological. If a person is conflicted more than 9 months, a heart attack can be fatal. In case of a heart attack, place an ice pack on the right side of the head above the ear to reduce the swelling and edema in the brain. If a person dedicates themselves to the Braveheart way, they will uncover and discover their real self, their authentic self, and then they will truly love themselves well. When dealing with any conflict with friends, family, or society, it is important to always resolve the conflict within yourself first and foremost before dealing with the outer world. Most times when it comes to dealing with conflict and the outer world, it is better to walk away, because the change that you actually seek is really within you. It's all about you. Understand, belief systems are genetic. Diseases, on the other hand, are epigenetic. Diseases are not malfunctions of the human body. They are support systems that warn you when you're not in alignment with your spirit. You can cut out the tumor, but did you cut out the belief that created it in the first place? Listen, society's systems are the true disease, which is a symptom of the toxic people that power them. In this world, we are either driven by the love of power, or in my case, the power of love. We must first start looking at ourselves from within and face the conflicts in our lives that originate at the subconscious level. Otherwise, mind your own business. It is within corrupt belief systems that all disease originates. It is within healthy belief systems that all healing originates. Either you learn to master your mind, or your mind will continue to master you. Learn or burn, so they say. Victim or Braveheart is the only way. People have unlimited potential on all levels when their beliefs are based on unlimited potential. Prevention and healing can only happen with ourselves, within ourselves. We can never bring order to chaos unless we go within and retrain the brain. Your personality shapes your reality. What are you willing to let go of? What are you willing to let go of? You know how people say, I can't stand change? Wow, did you ever pick the wrong planet? From constipation to cancer, everything is rooted in the emotions. Conventional medicine only looks at the anatomy and the function of the body and then makes conclusions from there. Then they come up with academic fiction, which is absurd because we are light energy, electromagnetic energy beings first and foremost. And when you realize this one fact, that's the only time you have a chance to awaken. Listen, in science, if there is one exception to the theory, then that theory is invalid. This is why when you take a closer look at the medical healthcare system today, it is not even close to a precise science. Diseases are emergency programs. Diseases are survival techniques for the emotional and physical body. Disease names tell us where the trauma is buried. That is their only purpose. Diseases are only symptoms of dysfunctional belief systems. Welcome to medical care, where everything and everyone becomes a 911 emergency. Let's talk about the Braveheart Way. The Braveheart Way is sacred medicine. It is focused on feeding the spirit, which heals us on all levels. Healing is whole body healing, not partial body healing. Medicine today believes that diseases are failures of the microorganism, that diseases are caused by pathogenic microbes, malignant cancer cells, defective genes, or a weakened immune system, which I will prove is not the real story. Tell a story long enough and strong enough, and the majority will always buy into it, even if it's based on BS, otherwise dysfunctional belief systems. The art of repetition is used for good and evil. Welcome to the program. The more the Cancer Association advertises cancer awareness, the more people are afflicted with cancer. You get what you focus on. Welcome to the masquerade. These beliefs that have been orchestrated by a corrupt system leave the majority powerless, full of fear of contracting cancer, and left to the mercy of a toxic system with only 4 options: life-threatening, drugs, chemo, radiation, or surgery. Anyone that has a different view from the government or the medical system will be labeled a quack, conspiracy theorist, or a psychopath. So I guess I must be all of them. This is a small price to pay to help liberate people by awakening them to the fact that the power to heal has always been with them and not with the few. The treatment that one chooses will be decided by how much love or hate that person has for themselves on a subconscious and unconscious level. I hope you're getting this. Diseases are not the errors of nature. They are specialized programs of nature to support and protect an organism during unexpected trauma. Nature is not hostile. Nature is caring and creative. The inherent force of nature is to protect its creation and to ensure its survival, your survival, because you are an essential part of nature. Conventional medicine will do anything to hide and distort nature's secret healing powers. And this is not just a crime against nature, it's a crime against God, and it's a crime against you. Look, for more information on this manipulation, this story, okay, that's been told, go to library/docofdetox.com and click on Medical Mafia, and then you decide for yourself. So let's talk about biological conflict. All disease originates from a psychological conflict that becomes a biological conflict. Now, I'm going to say it again. All disease originates from a psychological conflict that becomes a biological conflict. Examples of this are losing a job, loss of a loved one, or being emotionally caught off guard by an unexpected or unforeseen crisis. Healing cannot take place until the trauma, whether real or unreal, is resolved within the brain by using the heart-brain connection and by feeding your spirit to resolve the conflict in the first place. Remember what I said earlier? You can cut out the tumor, but did you cut out the belief? You must retell your story as a hero instead of a victim if you wish a happy ending. Depending on the conflict, symptoms can range from weakness to complete immobility. Depending on how long the conflict lasted, how deep the conflict was, how traumatic it was, will depend on whether it's just weakness or immobility. The symptoms will last until the mind believes there is no more threat. The unconscious programs we run can be a killer, especially the suffering program, where the greater the trauma, the more suffering must be endured. So understand this. The greater the trauma, the more suffering is going to be endured. During the trauma, you're not going to feel anything, but when the trauma resolves itself, the body goes into a healing phase, and that's when you will pay for the terrorizing of your body. To make this more clear, babies have tantrums, teenagers have mood swings, and adults have emotional disorders. All of these are programs for self-destruction. Biological conflict is the main cause of all disease. But first, understand something. Biological conflict is the main cause of all disease. But understand, the trigger was the psychological conflict first and foremost. Look at conflicts of loss, separation conflicts, abandonment conflicts, death conflicts, fright conflicts, sympathy conflicts, existence conflicts, starvation conflicts, nest worry conflicts, territorial conflicts, sexual conflicts, attack conflicts, and feeling stuck in life conflicts. Look at conflicts that threaten our survival or our home or the connection with family or community can be devastating and even life-threatening if we do not have the proper tools, such as the Brave Heart Way 12 Loving Steps. We must have tools to help us resolve these conflicts quickly and efficiently. Before I go any further, okay? It's about community. It's about coming together. It's about molecules. It's about frequency. It's about togetherness, not coming apart. Because when we come apart as a community, as a nation, we come apart as a person. Listen, breaking yourself out of judgment jail is not only essential, but life-saving. We need to uncover and discover the invisible bonds that bind and blind us from our healing. What am I getting at here? Society, okay, does not have justice. It has judgment. We have been taught to judge ourselves from the minute we get here. And we judge ourselves continually. We must release ourselves from judgment jail and everyone else. Look at the mind determines whether something is trauma or not by your prominent and dominant belief systems. But are they your prominent, dominant belief systems, or is somebody else mastering your mind, mastering your body, mastering your life? So understand, most traumas occur on a subconscious level. And depending on the trauma, it will affect a different part of the body or a specific organ. Let me read this again. This is probably one of the most important things that I need you to take in. Most traumas occur on a subconscious level, and depending on the trauma, it will affect a different part of the body or a specific organ. Look, some examples of these are suffering conflict of loss, whether real or unreal, will create an imbalance or otherwise disease within the ovaries. Suffering a separation conflict for a woman can involve the lining of the milk ducts in the right breast if she is right-handed. An existence conflict such as how can I make it on my own will cause disease within the kidneys. A starvation conflict such as fear of not knowing how to provide food for oneself or one's family will create disease within the liver. The nest worry conflict when it comes to children will cause disease within the breast glands of the left breast, which is for a right-handed woman. The feeling stuck conflict can cause disease within the legs. The key when entering into a trauma and avoiding the state of dis-ease is with lion heart breathing and snapping back, okay, with your Braveheart love band so that we can snap back to the present moment in an instant, which is the only point of power where all creation and healing takes place. It's only the present moment. You cannot be in two time zones at once. You cannot be in the future. You cannot be in the past. If you decide you want to heal your body and stay there, if you want to heal your mind and be there, the most important step is to resolve the conflict as soon as possible, to lessen the physical damage so the healing phase is shorter and less severe. But before we go any further, let me just say this. We have been taught that the measure of love we have for our family and for others is how much we suffer. This is where we have totally been lied to. Suffering is not the way to happiness or health. The only place to reclaim the gift of healing is within the present moment. Most people that are suffering with a chronic illness are caught in the past or in the future, or they're caught in both places at the same time. As I said already, you cannot heal in these time zones. As soon as the trauma is resolved, healing begins instantly. Did you hear what I said? As soon as you resolve the trauma, healing starts to begin. Healing cannot and will not take place in a sympathetic state. This is why a traumatized cancer patient will never heal. They will only survive and never thrive. The more we focus on the physical, the more we drain our energy field. Otherwise, our personal field of power, which is our spirit. If we are physically in good shape and we have the proper tools emotionally to deal with trauma, then all trauma is short-lived and never life-threatening. Did you hear what I said? Trauma will never be life-threatening. But are you taking massive personal action, or is it just a reaction? Are you continually triggering trauma in your life? You might be the terrorist you're looking for. Most people are taught that the depth and the length of their suffering should equal the drama or the trauma. So if we buy into this belief, then we believe that whoever suffers the most loves the most. This belief is not just dysfunctional, but is life-threatening for anyone who runs this toxic program. Feeling abandoned, left out, or left behind is one of the most difficult experiences. We're social beings. We're tribal. Abandonment is linked to disease of the kidneys. And if you don't believe me, then take a look at how many people are suffering with kidney and bladder issues in today's society. Suffering from the abandonment existence conflict will create disease within the kidneys. Example of this, I feel abandoned. I can no longer exist. When we feel like a fish out of water, otherwise alone or isolated, we will have trouble urinating. This is the abandonment conflict or existence conflict or a fear of one's life, whether real or not real. In this situation, we starve ourselves with water. We put ourselves in the desert because we have been deserted. Without water, all the metabolic processes of the body stop functioning. Welcome to the majority of the population that suffer with dehydration, inflammation, internal scar tissue formation, displaced calcium, and even mutation. For more information, please go to library/docofdetox.com and click on the A to Z Wellness Guide and have a read. And then maybe you might even want to purchase, the A to Z Wellness Masterclass. Listen, when it comes to a cancer diagnosis or when a livelihood is at stake, this can also trigger an existence conflict. The feeling we experience behind an existence conflict is, I've lost everything, emotionally and physically. Examples of this are loss of a loved one, divorce or loss of a home. To make my point, the Cancer Association has made cancer into a death sentence. Just remember though, where the mind goes, the body follows. So be the master of all your thoughts or they will master them for you. The moment the abandonment or existence conflict is triggered or takes place, the conflict impact in the area of the brain that's in charge of the kidneys is switched on. This sets off stress and inflammation in the kidneys, and this inflammation shuts down the valve in the kidneys, causing water retention because of contraction and internal scar tissue formation caused by the psychological. So to make this clear, before any other part of your body becomes inflamed, the corresponding area of the brain becomes inflamed first and foremost, because where the brain goes, the body always follows, whether this is regeneration or inflammation or mutation. In the case of conflict of existence, your body will not only retain water, but will recycle creatinine into protein as a form of nutrition for the body because of the threat of starving from protein deficiency, because the mind believes that you are in the middle of a desert. Creatinine is a waste product of protein metabolism, which is usually eliminated with the urine. In the body's attempt to support this conflict, it may cause uremia, which is too much creatinine in the blood. This emotional trauma of conflict of existence has created an emergency situation, and this existence conflict is the cause. So the degree of the water retention is determined by the intensity of the conflict. Now that you know this, you will notice even the slightest abandonment issue. You will notice your shoes feeling tight, rings hard to get off, and even your socks will leave indents on your legs and, of course, decrease urine output. Urine will have a deep yellow color. A side effect of water retention is weight gain. 1 quart of water is approximately 2.5 pounds. So, if we exercise, have a good diet, and have a hard time losing weight, then the abandonment conflict is being run on an unconscious level. All this water is stored within the fat cells and inflates the fat cells. With overweight children, it is not just a diet issue. It's an abandonment issue. Our children and our pets suffer the most with abandonment issues. If the abandonment issue continues for a long period of time, then there is a high risk that a tumor can form within the kidneys. Remember, the invisible creates the physical, whether good or bad, healthy or unhealthy. So become conscious of all your programs. That's it. As soon as this emotional conflict is resolved, the stress, inflammation, and the mutation to the kidneys instantly stops. And then bacteria and fungi begin to remove the necrotic tissue or tumor so healing can take place and tissue can be restored back to its normal vitality. Bacteria and fungi are the oldest living organisms on the planet. I bet you didn't know that. And if you did know that, then you would have to understand that they are life-saving to us on all levels. We must understand that it was not the bacteria or the fungus that created the infection, inflammation, or the cancer. They are the cleanup crew. They are the healers. Microbes being the enemy is one of the most misleading concepts in health today. It is undermining health all around the world. Never forget the greatest equation by Albert Einstein, E equals mc squared. Energy equals mass. Thoughts create things. The bug is not the problem. The program you're running is. As soon as a person reaches conflict resolution, water retention, and creatinine storage is eliminated. Let's talk about conflict. Let's talk about conflict, cervix and prostate conflict. Abandonment can also be interpreted as rejection, particularly sexual rejection. When this occurs with women, it's the cervix. With men, it's the prostate. And before I go any further, just understand something. I said that there is a huge emotional, traumatic change in the air today. Did you know that prostate cancer has gone up 40% in the last 5 years? And they say by 2030, it'll go up 400%. So tell me that there's not a conflict going on. There always is. It's emotional, physical, nutritional, spiritual. So let's talk about the cervix. The cervix is the passage to the uterus. The conflict to the cervix is the conflict of not being able to mate. Feelings of rejection, sexual abuse of any sort, sexual frustration, feelings of being rejected or unwanted, or when a woman's partner is interested in another person, or even if she believes they're interested and they're not. When this conflict occurs, the cervix begins to ulcerate and have tissue loss. But when it comes to the biological purpose of the tissue loss with the cervix, it is to widen the cervix so when mating finally takes place, more sperm can reach the uterus, which increases the chance of conception. Never forget, first we have an image, then a thought, then an emotion, which creates a frequency, which triggers hormones and chemicals that either create or degenerate and even mutate. This conflict of sexual rejection can happen at an early age or even later in life. Signs of sexual rejection conflict can be cold hands or trouble sleeping. Cervical cancer is a normal reaction to sexual rejection conflict. As soon as the conflict is resolved, the cervix will be restored to perfect balance. During the conflict active phase, we experience no symptoms, but that's with every conflict. Well, it's on, you don't experience anything, but when it stops, wow, you're laid out in bed. So after we resolve the conflict on an emotional level, we are then no longer preoccupied with the conflict. So now we enter the healing phase and begin to experience physical symptoms such as fatigue, exhaustion, can't get out of bed, pain and inflammation, swelling and infections. This is all part of the brain and the body's natural healing phase. But these symptoms that we experience from the body's natural healing phase do not feel normal or natural due to the misinformation and lies that the majority of the medical doctors and natural health care professionals and governmental systems have been indoctrinated with over the last 150 years. What you don't get is there is a government within inside of our government that's undermining everything good and beautiful. And if you don't believe me, go to library/docofdetox.com and click on the medical mafia, and then you decide for yourself. The longer we are in this sexual rejection, conflict active phase, the more intense these healing symptoms will be, and the longer it will take to heal. So the more you abuse yourself emotionally, the longer it's going to take for you to heal physically. When it comes to symptoms of healing, even the so-called health professionals are misinformed. Here's an example for you. An edema is a water pocket that protects the area while it's in the healing phase. Healing always occurs in a fluid environment, so there will always be swelling, which can cause pain. There can also be bleeding and discharge at this time because of this reconstructive restoration process of cleansing and regeneration. Medical professionals and even natural health practitioners view this phase as a negative because they've been misinformed. The idea is to work with and control these symptoms, not stop them. You know, even when it comes to a child who has a fever, you don't kill the fever. You pull the cork out. You give them a little enema. Fever comes down right away. Suffering ends. You take someone who has a headache. They feel nauseous. They feel like they want to throw up. They feel achy all over. Do therapeutic vomiting. And guess what? Relief is only a half an hour, 45 minutes away, and it could have been days. When you try to choke down something that you can't swallow, you can't process, it will turn on you. So understand, this is the phase where the cervix fills in and restores itself. That's the healing phase. As long as there is no emotional conflict relapse. So do you get that? As long as there's no conflict, if you stop the conflict, you don't re-trigger the conflict, the cervix will heal. That's the bottom line. So as long as there is no emotional conflict relapse, otherwise re-triggered trauma. A relapse will only prolong the healing phase. Okay, did you ever have, like, let's say, a sprained ankle and you did not respect and honor yourself enough and you re-sprained it? It took 2 to 3 times longer to heal. Don't keep disrespecting your body because your GPS, which is the pain and the suffering, is only going to get worse because your body's saying, why can't you love me? This is why the Braveheart Way is so important. It teaches us how to better understand what the triggers are to the sexual conflict so that we can create a new reality map in the mind to assist the biological process of permanent self-healing. Like I told you before, psychological before biological. If the healing phase continues, if the healing phase continues to drag on for months and months, then we know the sexual conflict has not been properly or completely dealt with on an emotional level. So then we must find and eliminate the triggers. So we've got to get rid of the belief that's creating this. Remember, what you feed only gets bigger. We must neutralize all the triggers so that healing can be completed. This is why the Braveheart 12 loving steps are a must. If permanent healing is your desire, so please go to library/docofdetox.com and click on Braveheart 12 loving steps. Now, in the case of Pap tests, the results can be positive, but these results are just markers, and most health professionals do not understand the natural process of healing. Otherwise, the process where the body is sloughing off the disease-causing agents to heal itself. The dirty little secret of healthcare today is to distract the patient away from the natural healing phase of self-healing. Medicine believes that diseases are errors of nature, but they are not. They are part of nature's perfect plan of self-healing. Let's talk about the prostate. Let's talk about what's really going on when it comes to sexual emotion in men. The prostate is a gland that produces seminal fluid. It is the main organ that secures procreation. A protein that is a component of the seminal fluid is known as PSA, or prostate-specific antigen. A procreation conflict for a male is not being able to mate. Remember, when a female is not able to mate, the cervix begins to ulcerate, causing tissue loss. If a male cannot mate, the prostate tissue cells start to proliferate. Otherwise, a rapid increase in cell production, and the biological purpose of the proliferation is to produce more seminal fluid. A procreation conflict can occur when the male cannot have children or grandchildren. This is a biological concern created by what? A psychological concern, otherwise conflict. This can also be a sexual mating conflict, such as sexual rejection, sexual frustration, or feeling sexually unwanted. The prostate is also linked to what we call a gender conflict. A gender conflict is about being disregarded as a man, a husband, as the father of the children, as the provider of the family. So, ugly divorces, custody battles, emotional and financial abuse can also trigger this procreation conflict, not feeling good enough. The moment the procreation conflict occurs, this impacts the area of the brain that controls the prostate, and this program is switched on. At this point, the prostate cells begin to proliferate or multiply. So, are you ready for this? So the PSA level naturally rises with it. Inflammation is and always will be the trigger, but the trigger of inflammation will always be emotional conflict. We know that conventional medicine uses PSA levels as a tumor marker. There's nothing abnormal about an elevated PSA level. All it indicates is that the male is procreation conflict active with a prostate-related condition. End of story. This is an absolutely normal event. If the conflict lasts over a long period of time, the cell proliferation forms a prostate tumor or prostate cancer. During this procreation conflict active phase, there are usually symptoms. It's the pressure and the anxiety to get tested that has made prostate cancer the highest cancer in males. Go figure. Where the mind goes, the body must follow. We are constantly being programmed without our knowing it, and this is why conflict resolution is the key to all healing. In the last 5 years, prostate cancer, like I said, has gone up 40% and is expected to go up another 400% by the year 2030. Tell me we're not programmed, okay, to feel less than we are. Tell me that we're not programmed to attack ourselves. My personal opinion is the large intestine, which is 85% of the immune system, is rotting out. So on a physical level, my personal opinion is your large intestine, which is the holy grail of you, is rotting out. And because of this, the prostate, guess where the prostate sits? It sits right in front of the last 4 inches of the large intestine. The prostate is now swimming in the middle of a cesspool of putrefaction. If you don't believe me, go and watch my masterclass, How to Become Number 1 at the Art of Number 2. Look at the integrity of your large intestine is the key to this male prostate pandemic on a physical level. I hope you're getting this. Did you hear what I said? It's the key on a physical level. So please go to library/docofdetox.com and click on Become Number 1 at the Art of Number 2 Masterclass. And also you might want to read the guide Spoiled Rotten and find out how the average all-American couple live, and then go to the Domino Effect of Unhealthy Living guide in the library and see how the large intestine is the master organ of the human body. So, the increased advertising and pressure around getting tested for cancer has and always will increase the numbers of cancer, because where the mind goes, the body follows. And guess what? Advertising pays. Okay, advertising pays, and don't you forget it. Tell a story long enough and strong enough, and everybody's going to believe it, aren't they? Like that's not something that's going on right now. Take a look at our world. As soon as this procreation conflict is resolved, the healing phase sets in, and now we are seeing the physical symptoms of being out of alignment. That's right. As soon as the conflict is over, the symptoms start to rise, because that is the healing. So now the real healing begins. Your bacteria begin to decompose the tumor, eliminating the waste through the urine, and this is why the urine is cloudy and may even have traces of blood in it. These healing symptoms will set alarm bells off for almost all medical and natural health practitioners because of improper training and schooling on the natural healing phases of the body. Listen, not even the natural health practitioners out there understand what I'm telling you today. You need to get this. And this is where we fail. This is where we fail our patients. This is where we fail ourselves. Look at, one may also experience night sweats as a symptom. They may be tired, or they experience pain and may even require a catheter until swelling reduces. It is also important to understand that the sooner we get rid of the catheter, the less internal scar tissue is created and the quicker the healing will take place. It is very important when dealing with cancer to supplement the protein loss with whole plant-based protein and amino acid supplementation. During the healing phase of cancer, any cancer, amino acids are essential on a continual basis throughout the day because of all this protein loss. Severe protein loss can cause death. Cancer patients need extra amino acid supplementation. So feel free to give me a call at 855-900-4544 extension 5. That's my extension. And I am here to support and help you. If you don't hear from me by the next day, then you call me back. The squeaky wheel gets the grease. And understand something, I work for you. Let's get back to the prostate. So, night sweats are a huge indication that more amino acids are needed. Cancer has a ferocious appetite for amino acids, so supplementation is so important to prevent muscle wastage. You know what people say? I'm losing weight. No, you're not. You're losing muscle. And even when you don't have cancer, when you start to get older, you're not losing weight. You're losing muscle. This is why we need to take amino acids. This is why we need to, the older we get, the more we need to work out. Emotionally and physically. So, when the conflict is resolved, the tumor will still be there, but the PSA will return to normal, provided there is no conflict relapse. Remember, there is no reason to panic over an elevated PSA level, and if you do, this only feeds it. Did you get that? This only feeds it. So remember, all beliefs, the more you feed them, the bigger they get. Remember I said that? So understand this. Nature does not make mistakes. A man can have an elevated PSA level even if he does not have prostate cancer or even if his prostate has been removed. Did you get that? Let me read it again. A man can have an elevated PSA level even if he does not have prostate cancer or even if his prostate has been removed. On top of this, here's the clincher. Women can also have an elevated PSA level. So there goes that theory. That's right. High PSA levels can be experienced with women who have metastatic breast cancer. PSA can also be found in the breast, liver, and salivary glands. This means there is nothing specific about the prostate-specific antigen. Otherwise, the PSA. So, what is an antigen? An antigen is a substance that stimulates the immune system. No immune system, no antigen. So understand, antigens are normal and natural. Hospitalization can also cause abandonment conflict, which causes urine retention or water retention by shutting down urination. Lack of doctor care and lack of visitors can also cause abandonment conflict. Make sure you always stay with loved ones while in the hospital. Everyone needs an advocate, okay? This can save a life. Shining your love is the true answer when someone is sick, because they're not just sick physically, they are sick on an emotional level, meaning that they have a dysfunctional belief that is making them sick. So let's get back to it. Excess water retention can severely slow down the healing phase. With water retention, every tumor becomes larger, which often leads to a diagnosis of a fast-growing tumor or as an aggressive tumor, which leads to more aggressive toxic treatments most of the time. Right? Right or wrong? With more fear comes more water retention. What a vicious cycle. This all leads to increased pain medication, such as morphine and morphine derivatives, which reduces the success of the healing and the chance of survival for this patient. Now, I'm not telling you not to do these drugs. I am telling you what I would do on a personal level here. This is information. And then you need to do your own research. Let's keep going. Cortisol increases water retention, which means this can be dangerous, especially in cases with tumors in the bile duct, brain, and colon. Increased swelling in the bile duct and colon can be life-threatening because of excess pressure or a complete blockage. Mood disorders and mental disorders are linked to biological conflicts, which means these disorders have a brain and organ correlation. As I stated before, where the mind goes, the body follows. Issues in the tissues are conflicts unresolved. People have been programmed to fail. Our goal personally and as a community is to resolve all conflicts as soon as possible. All emotional blocks become physical blocks, which society calls diseases. And understand this, the more conflicts a person is running at the same time, the more unbalanced they will be mentally and emotionally. Depending on the degree of the conflicts involved, this mental imbalance can range from mood disorders to a severe manic depressive state, all the way to severe mental illness. How can this be resolved? By resolving conflicts, which are the dysfunctional programs and belief systems within your subconscious mind. We must erase beliefs that trigger conflict and replace them with self-empowering beliefs for self-healing to take place and to remain in place. Your personality always creates your reality. If you wish to be different, then you must become different. You must search for different. Every disease is a biological special program of nature created to support an organism during unexpected distress. The conflict of separation will create short-term memory loss. Can you remember when you just keep on forgetting things and you just, oh my gosh, it's because you're blowing your brain out. You're inflaming your brain. So get this, the conflict of separation will create short-term memory loss until the person is capable of facing and dealing with this real or perceived separation conflict. With children that are forgetful and have difficulty concentrating, this is called ADD or attention deficit disorder. These children are dealing with a separation conflict, and this condition often starts when they are separated from a parent. So what is ADHD? H stands for hyperactivity. What is hyperactivity? Being restless, not being able to sit still, wanting to move. This is linked to a conflict of being stuck, which always involves the muscles. The child is counteracting the distress with maximum movement. There is nothing wrong with these children. The answer lies with the adults. When we hear about ADHD, we should not think of this as a disorder. We should think of this as a separation and feeling stuck conflict. This is our invitation to make changes for the sake of our beautiful children who are being diagnosed and mistreated by a broken system. The next time you decide to put your child on drugs, just understand something. You are the dysfunctional program. There are options. Have you checked these options out? Listen, you can't give what you're not. So you need to become something different so that you give them something different, that you give them a chance at life. Let's talk about memory loss. Memory loss is a symptom of Alzheimer's. With this age group, it is often the loss of a separation of a spouse, a long-term friend, a partner. And if this conflict goes on for years, this is what causes dementia. Your beliefs are everything. The conflict of, I just want to forget. We need to rewrite and retell our stories if we wish to have conflict resolution. And this is why you must take a look at number 11 and number 12 in the Braveheart 12 Loving Steps guide. This is very crucial. Take this really serious. If you're not willing to take massive personal action, then quit complaining, quit explaining, because your life is never going to change. Conventional medicine considers Alzheimer's a degenerative disease. It's not the people that are degenerating. It's society's dysfunctional beliefs in health that are degenerating. Why we feel we are no longer playing an important role in our life. We feel forgotten, and this is when we forget. What happens when an elderly person is put into a nursing home? You know the answer to this. The world has forgotten them. Look at how conflict relates to the brain is a very important situation. You've got emotion. The emotion affects the brain, and then the brain affects the organ or a certain part of the body. So let's talk about glandular breast cancer. That is a nest-worry conflict. Colon cancer, indigestible morsel conflict. Lung cancer, death-fright conflict. Kidney cancer, abandonment conflict. Prostate cancer, male sexual conflict. Intraductal breast cancer, separation conflict. Cervical cancer, female sexual conflict. Ovarian cancer and testicular cancer, profound loss conflict. Bone cancer, self-devaluation conflict. Look at each cancer has its own area in the brain from where the cancer is controlled, and each cancer is linked to a very specific type of conflict, shock, or trauma that correlates emotionally, psychologically, and biologically to the same area in the brain that controls the cancer. A very specific area in the brainstem always controls lung cancer, which is the oldest part of the brain. Lung cancer is always linked to a death-fright conflict. When you suffer from a death-fright conflict, you will find it hard to breathe, and if this continues, nodules or even lung cancer may be the outcome. This is a coping mechanism until you reach a death-fright conflict resolution. Then and only then will healing begin to take place and stay in place. Look at glandular breast cancer is always controlled by a specific area in the cerebellum, which is just next to the brainstem and is always caused by an unresolved nest worry conflict. In other words, unexpected worry and well-being of a loved one. The degree of the conflict will determine the degree of the disease. Intraductal breast cancer is controlled from a very specific area in the cerebellum and is always caused by a separation conflict. Animals experience this conflict in real terms. For example, when they're separated from their mate or from their offspring. When they're attacked by a predator, or when they lose their nest or their territory, or they suffer a threat of starvation, or a death-fright conflict. Listen, for you women, please go to library/docofdetox.com and click on I Am Woman Guide, and then tell me what you think. Take a look and take a deep dive. So, humans can experience the same separation conflict when they lose their home, their job, or a means of income. We can suffer an attack conflict when we're physically attacked, verbally attacked, when our integrity is attacked, or when we think it has been attacked. That's right. Lack of confidence is a killer. We can suffer a starvation conflict when we don't know how to provide for ourselves, and we can suffer a death-fright conflict, which is most common when we receive what we believe to be a life-threatening diagnosis. Oh, like that's not going on. It's going on all over the place. So when we receive a life-threatening diagnosis, shock always follows a life-threatening diagnosis. The medical system is the greatest culprit at dispensing a life-threatening diagnosis. When we work from statistics, this is what we call herd mentality. So if you don't want to become a statistics, change the rules and you'll change the game and heal. You must understand, conflict, whether real or unreal, will have the same effect on your body because your brain cannot tell the difference. This is how this psycho-elite, the government, and all these toxic systems that are supposedly there to protect us have used this mind manipulation of conflict and chaos to control and harvest us like they're doing right now. Tell a story long enough and strong enough, and you could have the entire planet buying into the masquerade of a fake pandemic. Are you beginning to see the difference between mastering your emotions or letting someone else master them for you? And let's not forget, the majority of the population is unconscious about the power of their subconscious beliefs. This interaction between emotions, the brain, and the organ applies to all diseases in every patient's case. Some examples are heart conditions, skin disorders, diabetes, arthritis, mood disorders, mental conditions, and the list just goes on and on. 86% of the population is suffering from an autoimmune disease, which means the body is attacking itself. But just know this, before the body was attacking itself on a physical level, it was attacking itself on an emotional one. Whether this attack happened on a conscious level or an unconscious level, the outcome is still the same. Your thoughts and beliefs create things. The image you have for yourself and the world around you is either the blessing or the curse. When diagnosed by a medical doctor, they are using statistics. Statistics are for those who do not and will not embrace change. If you wish your health to be different, then you must become the difference by breaking free from the herd and finding your true authentic self. The healer within, the practitioner within. It's your body. You don't have a choice until you decide you do. Look, diseases are meaningful biological safety mechanisms. The disease will no longer be needed when the conflict or the trauma has been resolved on an emotional level. The invisible always trumps the biological, so don't push the panic button. Diseases are curable, but to create this new reality, you must change parts of your personality. We are all born with the capability of healing our own diseases when we become a conscious creator. Remember, whether consciously or unconsciously, you created the disease. People will continue to have conflicts, traumas, and emotional shocks until they become the masters of their mind. Where the mind goes, the body must follow. Continual shock will create a physical block. Did you get that? Continual shock will create a physical block. And this is what we refer to as issues in the tissues, otherwise known as diseases. Look at this. I just want to tell you, you know what? What do people say? It sucks to grow old. I can't stand being stiff. I can't stand being in pain. Well, what do you think we're talking about here today? This is all controllable. This is all doable. This is all reversible. Go to library/docofdetox.com and click on the A to Z Wellness Guide. And then maybe even dive in and do the whole masterclass. Remember this, the brain is the mediator between the subconscious and the body. The brain is the control station in coping with your particular conflict situation. The brain is the control station from which each and every biological program is controlled, coordinated, and stored. And understand something, it's just your prominent and dominant beliefs that you work every day, so why don't you work at changing them? It is the emotions that are the driving and leading component of every program. Everything begins with an image, then a thought, and then an emotion. What you imagine and focus on is what you create. The more you feed a program, the bigger it gets. If it is a negative program that you continue to feed, someday it will not just turn on you, but it will feed on you. It will eat you up. Hey, we're talking about cancer here. How we perceive and experience a trauma, conflict, or shock is determined by our coping mechanisms, which are determined and rooted in our belief systems. The biological program and outcome will always depend on how a person perceives the trauma, shock, conflict. 10 different people can experience the same trauma, conflict, or shock, but everyone will suffer or heal at different rates because our perception shapes and creates our reality. The death, fright, panic equates to not being able to breathe, which equals lung cancer. think about those people who have had lung cancer in your family, and you will find this always holds true. Cell proliferation is a significant biological program that happens with certain organs. When cell proliferation happens, this is tissue gain, and when it is above a certain range, cancer is considered malignant. When cell proliferation is below a certain range, cancer is considered benign. So I hope you're getting this. So it's one baby step between benign and malignant. So they could have very well said to you, it's benign. What type of difference would that make on your mind if I said benign or malignant? Oh my gosh, it's like going from A all the way to Z. That's the difference. So if you don't learn to control your emotions, and if you react, then you're going to attack. If you take massive personal action at loving yourself, does it really matter if it's benign or malignant? Isn't changing the mind the deal? Look, when a woman is experiencing a sexual conflict, the cervix and the uterus will enter a significant biological program of tissue loss. When you're experiencing conflict, shock, trauma, you are in the sympathetic or fight, flight, freeze state. The body cannot and never will heal in this state. So you need to get this. Your body will never heal in this state, okay? Conditions will only get worse. So unless you find peace, unless you're in the parasympathetic state, you're in trouble. So whenever you're in the healing phase, you are in the parasympathetic rest, repair, restore state. This is the only state from where true healing can take place. One of the greatest techniques for retraining the mind and body to enter and stay in the parasympathetic state is called belly button therapy and Avicen energy medicine. These two things, okay, they retrain the physical body to help the emotional body to just get there. Go check out belly button therapy, okay, in my library in the do-it-yourself guide. And also, okay, check out the Avicen Energy Medicine under store.docofdetox.com. Go to EMF/energy. All right. So, when we are in a state of conflict, we are in a prolonged sympathetic state, which causes us to be preoccupied with the conflict, causing sleep disturbances, loss of appetite, and cold extremities. The moment we are out of the sympathetic state of conflict, we enter into the parasympathetic healing state. There are only two emotions, these being love and fear. There are also two main ways to take action, self-love or self-hate. So the sooner we get into the state of self-love and self-care, the less conflict we will cause to the entire body. When you finally enter into the parasympathetic state of healing, you will experience emotional relief, but along with that, fatigue, and increased appetite, and maybe even fever. The cold phase is known as the conflict phase. The warm phase is known as the healing phase. You will experience symptoms such as fever, warm hands, warm body, pain, inflammation, and even swelling in the warm phase. And understand this, rest is absolutely essential for healing to take place. When we're in the healing phase, this is when fungi and bacteria begin their job of eating and eliminating tumors and other unwanted growths in your body. These organisms are the cleanup crew and are essential for life and healing, even though we have labeled them as the bad guys or the predators of our body. As a tumor grows, the fungi and bacteria will match the growth of the tumor. This is so when we finally restore the conflict with self-care and self-love, these bacteria and fungi will be there to digest the tumor, which is life-saving. Understand, nature does not create something for nothing. All microbes have a purpose. All microbes have a place. When you enter into the healing phase, otherwise a parasympathetic state of healing, you may experience healing symptoms such as discharge, pus, night sweats, swelling, pain, inflammation, fever, and fatigue. Pain is a natural part of healing, and you have to get this. It is so important that you get this today. Pain is a natural part of healing. It's your body's GPS. It's your ally. And without it, you would be dead already. When it comes to pain, this is where people make the big mistake by jumping the gun and taking extreme measures such as shutting it down with drugs or running away from it or ignoring it or eating to suppress everything, which usually does not work out so well. The most important relationship you'll ever have on a physical level is with your body. And without pain as a guide, you would always be out of alignment on all levels, and all hell would break loose. Understand. Understanding body talk is the most important language you will ever learn, and the most important part of body talk is learning to embrace these symptoms with self-love and self-care. Even when there is blood in the discharge, this is a natural part of your healing process in action. Be aware of the bleeding. Take control of the bleeding, but do not panic. Take massive personal action to love yourself well. And if you find that your bleeding does not stop, please give me a call to Extension 5. I will show you ways to help your bleeding to stop, no matter what part of the body it is. But never, ever forget, that's why your medical doctors are there as well. We are not here to take the place of medical doctors. We are not here to take the place of nature. But you must understand that you must become the master of this beautiful body of yours. Look, even though healing symptoms are uncomfortable, like night sweats, some people go into very deep healing. All negative symptoms can be short-lived when we start making decisions based on unconditional love for ourselves. But on a physical level, we must clean out and restore the large intestine and the liver as soon as possible. This will minimize the symptoms throughout the healing phase. If antibiotics have been used, then the bacteria and the fungi needed to decompose and eliminate the tumor will probably not exist anymore. The tumor will become encapsulated, and a dormant and an encapsulated tumor can be found years later by testing, which will then cause another shock conflict, which may then trigger the brain to awaken the cancer all again. A thought is never just a thought. It's creating your future. Thoughts never sleep. So wake up and become conscious and mindful of your thoughts. And understand something. Also take a look at my 6-day advanced water fasting, because nothing is more powerful than my 6-day advanced water fasting for unleashing stem cells and autophagy in the body. Unleash the power to heal. Find your Braveheart roar. You have to understand, we have been purposely misinformed on so many levels on what cancer is not, and how to treat it. We have been taught that symptoms such as discharge, pus, night sweats, swelling, pain, inflammation, fever, and fatigue are the enemy, when actually they are the major part of your natural healing process to create a healthier you. These so-called negative symptoms are the cleanup crew of the body. So learn how to master them and heal yourself well by learning how to create the perfect day for yourself each and every day. Look, if the patient has been made aware of these built-in life-saving mechanisms, they will no longer need to be frightened by these self-healing symptoms. They can now fully accept these symptoms as the healing symptoms they truly are. All of which cause what? Fear and panic up until now. Once you change your mind, you change your outcome. This whole episode will pass without any serious consequences when dysfunctional beliefs are erased and replaced with self-empowering ones. Remember, where the mind goes, the body follows. Statistics are only for the majority, so break free from the herd and write a Braveheart story. Never a survivor, always a thriver. For more information, go to library/docofdetox.com and click on the 4 Pillars of the Perfect Day Guide. Listen, most medical theories of conventional medicine are based on assumptions that have never been substantiated. Diseases are a natural process of healing when one has been out of alignment with their true authentic self. What happens in the brain must happen in the body, and what happens in the body must happen in the brain. In the healing phase, there can be swelling in the brain in the area of conflict, which can cause dizziness or headaches. Also, during the healing phase, you will find that you will urinate more often. This is natural and healthy. Contact us and we will show you how to lessen the suffering of these symptoms, these healing symptoms. And for most, it will be very difficult to wrap their head around this fact. But a brain tumor is not a malignant growth. It is part of the healing process. But I do not expect most people to accept or believe this due to indoctrination. From hemorrhoids to cancer, when there is a healing on a specific organ, this healing also takes place in the brain. The size of the tumor will decide how intense the healing is. The longer and the stronger the conflict is, the more intense and longer the healing phase will be. What will it take for you to fill up your own heart and completely embrace self-love? This would mean taking massive personal action and not having a reaction to re-trigger this. We must downgrade and eliminate every conflict as soon as possible to prevent the intense healing. But to do this, we need proven take-action strategies that retrain the brain for self-healing. Check out our Whole Life Coach certification or our 3-day online Whole Life Mind and Body Masterclass to uncover and discover your unlimited potential as a spirited being. Let me say this before we go any further. You must not just change the environment within your brain, within your body, but within your home, everywhere you go. You must become the master of your environment. You must look for high vibrational surroundings. Let's understand this. Every so-called disease is a part of a significant biological program created to assist the organism in coping with emotional conflict. I hope you can get this. Toxins are not the main cause of cancer. The theory that toxins are the main cause of cancer is based on the assumption that cancer is a malignant disease. But if we acknowledge that cancer is a meaningful biological process, then we also understand that toxins are the major factor of causing cancer. When we finally understand that cancer originates with emotional conflict and that each cancer is controlled by a specific area in the brain that acts as the mediator between the emotional body and the physical body, then we have finally reached the tipping point of understanding what true healing is and what true healing is all about. To come from the mindset that we must kill the cancer, just know that you may be killing yourself in the process. The patient died, but we cured the cancer. From arthritis to a tumor, we are dealing with emotional issues in the tissues. We must understand that tumors are storage sheds of not just physical toxicity, but emotional toxicity unresolved. Since I was a young child, I can remember governments ranting and raving about terrorism. But I believe that the true terrorism lives in the minds of the majority because of programming. Only you hold the key to be disease-free. Let me ask you a question. Why is it that people who live a healthy lifestyle, have a healthy diet, and stay away from toxins, still experience cancer and even die from it at an early age? The answer is because the conflict and the trauma can happen at any age, even at conception. This is why I have put together the most powerful training for couples called How to Create a Braveheart Family, from pregnancy to the golden years. Let's now talk about the biological conflict that is linked to the breast glands. This is the nest worry conflict. This happens when a woman worries about a loved one. With a nest worry conflict, the breast glands will immediately start to grow larger and multiply, forming a breast gland tumor or a breast cancer in the breast glands. This can happen at any point in life. The size of the tumor will depend on the intensity and the length of the nest worry conflict. The tumor is always proportional to how intense the conflict is. The more intense the conflict, the faster and the bigger the tumor grows. The emotional state is and always will be the driving force of the conflict. Your emotions, the brain, and the body always work in synchronicity. The emotions are the driver, and the brain is the maker and the shaper. A right-handed woman responds to a conflict with her children or mother with the left breast or with the left side of the body. She responds to a worry conflict with the right breast with everyone else who is not her mother or child. A left-handed woman responds to a conflict with her children or mother with the right breast or with the right side of the body. She responds to a worry conflict with the left breast with everyone else who is not her mother or child. It is within our emotions that cancer originates. Symptoms are not seen or felt until the healing phase. In the healing phase, the tumor will be broken down by bacteria, which will activate the healing symptoms of discharge, night sweats, protein loss, or painful swelling. A foul-smelling discharge can be excreted through the skin. Do not panic. This is the healing process, and the tumor is being naturally broken down. It can take 4 to 6 months for the decomposing of a tumor. Again, do not panic because further conflict will reactivate the conflict active phase. It is essential, again, like I stated earlier, to support protein loss with a protein-rich diet, especially during night sweats. Healing always takes place in a fluid environment, so there can be painful swelling. It is an absolute must to support the body with proper rest so the body can restore and repair itself. Healthy, organic, plant-based food rich in protein along with gentle cleansing are also crucial. Only supportive, positive people should be around the patient. The biggest complication for anyone going through the healing phase of cancer is fear and panic because the patient and their family members have no true understanding of how disease and healing actually works within the human body. Go figure. We are set up for failure if we do not awaken to these facts. Look at fear and panic causes water retention. The retained water will go into the organ and cause more pain and swelling. Fear and panic are mentally and physically destructive. If the woman does not have the TB bacteria to remove the tumor will encapsulate and stay in place. As I stated earlier, a person can live with an encapsulated tumor without symptoms or complications for the rest of their life. Cancer doesn't kill. It's the fear, the panic, the extra conflict from shock and trauma that's created by the healthcare professionals and the healthcare system that many have chosen to surround themselves with. Conflict relapses are caused by specific triggers, and until we understand that we must erase these triggers, we will continue to trigger the conflict. Finding peace, faith, courage, and staying connected to your Lionheart breath is key in setting yourself free from this fear-based program called healthcare. Unplug from all systems and take massive personal action on what you want in your life and nothing else. We must become aware of the places, people, and things that trigger conflict and panic in our lives, or we will continually reactivate the conflict trauma, which interrupts and prolongs the healing phase. Conflict reactivation is the number one reason for chronic illness and reoccurring cancers in our society today. And who's mainly responsible? Media, government, even major parts of the medical system, and also even the natural health system, because until you understand what I've been teaching you here today, then we live in fear. And understand, a practitioner can only give what they are. They can't give what they're not. There can be no permanent healing on the physical level until there is healing on the emotional level. Yes, they did cut out the tumor, but did they also remove the belief that created it in the first place? Because if they didn't, there will be a conflict relapse for the second and even the third time. Without the belief and understanding that true healing is self-healing, then we will continue to be programmed to push the panic button over and over again. How many times have you heard someone say this? I'm a 2-time, 3-time, 4-time cancer survivor. Why not be a thriver and just do it once and learn, not burn? Let's move on. Milk duct cancer is caused by a separation conflict. The lining of the milk ducts begin to ulcerate, and we have tissue loss and contraction of the tissue. The tissue pulls together. The feeling of, I can no longer care for you, or I can no longer nurture you, creates the conflict. If this condition continues, we get what's called sclerosis knots. These are fibrotic scar tissue knots that are viewed as cancer by the medical system, but they are not cancerous, and they are not tumors. This is tissue loss where the tissue pulls together, forming a knot. These knots are usually treated by having a mastectomy. Yes, did you hear me? These are treated by usually having a mastectomy. When the conflict is resolved, then the ulceration stops. The tissue loss is now replenished and replaced with healthy cells. In the restorative phase, there will always be swelling because healing always occurs in a fluid environment. Along with this, there can be pain, and the breasts can be hot, red, and itchy. Look, these are all positive signs of a natural healing phase. The majority of breast cancers are introductal breast cancers that are linked to a separation conflict. To support this statement, take a look at the divorce rate. First, family. Second, family. Third, family. Without stability, there will always be a separation conflict. Also, fear of losing a loved one, fear of separation, death of a family member or friend. These are all just a few examples that can switch on the separation conflict program. But understand this, not everyone will experience this, because if you have the proper tools to process your emotions, then you will not become conflicted, traumatized, or trigger a life-threatening conflict illness. With this type of condition, this is really essential. It's called Wolfe Non-Surgical Body Therapy. It's a must. And also check out clapping. It is a must. It is a must. So go to the library, go to my library, and go to library/docofdetox.com and click on the A to Z Wellness Guide. And you might even want to take the masterclass. And then also go into the Clapping for Health Guide in the library. And then also go into I Am Woman Guide. Look, as soon as you make peace with the conflict, then healing can and will begin. The length and the depth of your grief, sadness, anger, fear, or other negative emotions will determine the intensity of the illness and the length and the intensity of the healing phase symptoms. So hold on here. So depending on your beliefs will depend on how much you emotionally abuse yourself, which becomes a physical abuse, which will then, when you stop that, your healing phase is going to be longer and it's going to be stronger. So the healing phase can be difficult and go on for a very long time if you do not eliminate the triggers that activated it in the first place. When you experience cold hands, this is because you are unconsciously, subconsciously triggering or re-triggering the conflict. So let the cold hands be a warning symptom to you. Inflammatory cancer is known as one of the most dangerous breast cancers, but it's just inflammation of the breast. Ignorance of one's own health and the conflicts we run that creates this life-threatening situation is the true problem. So now let's talk about metastasis. If it's true that cancer metastasizes throughout the body via the blood and the lymph, then why don't they screen blood donors for cancer? Also, why isn't there cancer of the heart and the arteries when the blood flows through these two body parts the most when it comes to metastasis? So, let me ask you this. How do cancer cells get into the brain when we have what's called the blood-brain barrier? And why doesn't brain cancer metastasize to other parts of the body? Understand this. Secondary cancers are triggered by further or secondary conflict shocks, not by metastasis, otherwise a continual pushing of the panic button. Inflammation will eventually set the whole body on fire, which will trigger the next weakest link. Cancers are controlled and created by specific parts of the brain and triggered by continual conflict, shock, and trauma. As an example, a woman is diagnosed with breast cancer, which is triggered by a separation conflict. Then she goes to the doctor and he gives her a diagnosis which creates a death fright conflict, and this impacts the area of the brain that controls the lungs, so she develops lung cancer. For most people, this philosophy may sound foreign, but show me conclusive proof that cancer metastasizes to other parts of the body. Lung cancer is the most frequent secondary cancer, with bone cancer being next. When a person experiences bone cancer as a secondary cancer, this is a self-devaluation conflict. The fear of mastectomy, the fear of being useless on that side of the body can create the self-devaluation conflict. So, if the medical system was correct, this would mean that a cancerous breast gland cell breaks away from the milk ducts and migrates all the way to the bone and causes cancer in the bone, which creates a hole. This is their logic. All of this terror can be prevented when you understand the art of mastering the mind by mastering the emotions, loving yourself well, and creating the perfect day each and every day to create a healthy life. We must find our Braveheart roar because emotional intelligence is the art of living without the fear of cancer or any other disease, and realizing that all diseases are part of the body's natural healing phase when we're out of alignment. Understand, heart attacks. Let me make this perfectly clear. All bodily processes are controlled by the brain, and the brain is ruled by emotions. It was found through many studies that all heart attack victims have gone through a major conflict trauma prior to the heart attack. First, it's the emotional conflict that triggers a specific part in the brain that correlates to a specific organ, and in this case, it's the heart. As I stated earlier, diseases are significant biological special programs created to assist an organism during unexpected distress. These are all built-in survival programs for those of you who have not awakened to this idea that all thoughts matter, because thoughts create matter. Otherwise, thought form creates physical form. The heart is the recorder of all your relationships. How we experience a conflict is determined by our personality. In other words, our map of reality, which is made up of our belief systems. The same conflict may traumatize one person and not affect another, except for the experience of the learning. Let's talk about coronary heart diseases. Coronary heart diseases and complications arise from territorial loss conflict. When we lose our home, our job, anything of personal value, or anything that we consider a part of our domain or territory, the lining of the coronary arteries in this instance begin to ulcerate, causing tissue loss to allow increased blood flow, thus allowing more energy and more vigor to facilitate a conflict resolution. The symptom or disease in this case is called angina pectoris and is a symptom of the conflict active phase. This is a stabbing heart pain into the neck, and down the arms. The conflict intensity is determined by how intensely we experience and are affected by the shock. The inability to process emotions with ease creates the disease. The greater the conflict, the greater the impact on the brain, the greater the effect on the coronary arteries. As soon as the conflict is resolved, the ulceration stops and the healing begins. 80% of all cholesterol is produced by the liver, and 20% comes from our daily diet. Cholesterol is not the culprit that the medical system has and continues to make it out to be. It is used by the body to repair arterial walls until complete tissue healing takes place. During the healing phase, cholesterol levels will rise and continue until there is a lifestyle change, emotionally and physically, that no longer demands it to be made at that rate. Listen, don't panic. Elevated cholesterol is a natural part of arterial healing. Cholesterol is like candle wax. It is used by the body to fill in the cracks of the arteries until a complete healing has taken place. Due to mineral depletion in the arteries, mainly calcium, cholesterol is used to glue the cracks together until the blood pH is restored and the arterial walls are healed. Dr. Ron Rosedale, MD, stated, cholesterol is important for cardiovascular health. Cholesterol is a necessary ingredient in any sort of cellular repair. The brain is responsible for all healing and disease, from cancer to a heart attack, and everything in between. The psychological creates the biological. We are light energy, electrical, magnetic frequency beings, with our emotions being the main driver. The frequency of the emotion triggers the brain to initiate and release specific hormones and chemicals, which can be healing and restorative or destructive depending on whether the frequency that you created in your brain was negative or positive. The psychological and the physical damage that one experiences will always equal the impact of the shock trauma conflict. It is vitally important to initiate the Lionheart breathing technique along with 3-2-1 Braveheart Band countdown connection to diffuse the conflict by replacing it with a peaceful healing resolution as quickly as possible. You have 1 second to snap back to the present moment. This is your only true point of power, as I stated earlier. Living in the past or the future is what's wrong with people today. Healing can only take place in the present moment. The present moment is the only place that we can create a new belief system. I hope you can get this, and I hope you can really hold on to this. Let me blue light and changes it into healing light for your brain and your eyes. Your eyes are being damaged because your brain is on fire because of the blue light. Blue blockers don't work. I can tell you right now that the only patented glasses in the world that actually turn blue light into healing light are Tesla Lightwear. Check it out in my store at store.docofdetox.com. Now let's talk about sleep apnea, which is becoming a true pandemic. Sleep apnea is chronic heart stress and is linked to being completely overwhelmed. It is small mini heart attacks, small mini myocardial attacks involving the diaphragm. People who suffer from sleep apnea have ongoing unresolved conflicts that are continually triggering throughout their day and their night. But when it comes to nighttime, this is when they enter into the rest and repair phase. This is when the sleep apnea signs really appear. This will continue until they create a new map of reality, and this will not happen until they change parts of their personality. Until you understand what the trigger is or the belief system that creates the conflict, you will continue to suffer, and you may not sleep. So remember, sleep apnea is a case of being overwhelmed and fearful on a continual basis throughout the day. And as long as this continues, you will not enter into or have a complete healing. If you suffer from sleep apnea, check out these products at store.docofdetox.com. Mag Infusion, Belly Button Therapy, and Avicin. Understand, you must become your own practitioner. The systems that say that they are there for you will never be there truly for you. Either find your roar and become a Braveheart warrior, or become a beat-up worrier. We must make a mental shift and understand that diseases are a built-in safety mechanism for our survival and healing, not the demise of our life. You must take this one fact to heart. We can no longer go to war with ourselves on an emotional and or a physical level. We must learn how to love ourselves well. And this means that if we do not learn the art of body talk, then we will continually be at war with ourselves, and this is called an autoimmune disease. So if you continue to go to battle with yourself because you do not understand how to love yourself well, you will find yourself in bed on a continual basis in the rest and repair phase. Disease is not the enemy. Disinformation and a dysfunctional healthcare system is. Every disease originates from a dysfunctional belief, causing a conflict shock that catches an individual completely off guard and then traumatizes the patient on an emotional and physical level. Until we are taught how to master the mind, our life will remain a landmine of dis-ease. Each emotional conflict shock impacts a different but specific area in the brain, which then triggers the corresponding organ or body part, activating a special biological program to assist the organism in coping with a particular dysfunctional belief which created the conflict situation. This is why the brain is known as the mediator or the controller and the coordinator of all your biological programs. Emotions are the leading component of life as we know it. How you experience each and every individual conflict will determine the state of your life. In other words, what symptoms, how many symptoms, how intense they are, and how long they last. Your conflicts are a very personal event determined by your map of reality, which we know is made up of your belief systems. What you believe is how you perceive, and what you perceive will make and shape your health each and every day. For example, feeling powerless can cause thyroid problems. Anger will cause liver problems. Fear and disgust conflicts cause diabetes and hypoglycemia. The majority of the population lives in an unconscious state of stress during the day, which creates conflict that is carried on through the night, causing sleep disorders such as sleep apnea. All body processes are controlled by the brain but triggered solely by your emotions. Almost all digestive disorders are because we've choked down negative emotions that we are unable to digest, assimilate, or eliminate, which create conflict in our digestive systems. Bad foods create bad bacteria, which create bad moods. Where the mind goes, the body follows. This is law. Trapped emotion within the intestines, especially the large intestine, will become encapsulated, which is called a growth or a tumor. How big and how fast the tumor grows will be determined by the intensity of the emotional conflict. The more intense the conflict, the faster the tumor will grow and the bigger the tumor will be. For more information, watch How to Become Number One at The Art of Number Two in the Doc of Detox library. Look, it is in the emotions where disease originates. So it is also in emotions where all disease begins to heal. Eating healthy, exercise, proper sleep, healthy habits, and reducing stress are all important, but until you master your emotions, otherwise the mind, we will continue to create conflict and trauma in our life and in the lives of those we love. So when you finally embrace the Braveheart way, the authentic you, will finally be in the driver's seat of your life for the rest of your life. Just as the media, government, and corporations have programmed us to believe that we are stupid, weak, and a burden on society, we can also program ourselves to be Braveheart heroes and the light for our family and the rest of the world. Repetition is the key to healing and setting yourself free. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for joining me. Let us grow strong together. Let us stay together. Let us never come apart as a family. Let us never come apart in our body. Until we are willing to accept the truth that most medical health care is based on fraudulent science, we will never have the power to heal ourselves or our family. Let me leave this with you. One last beautiful thought. Your life is a movie. You are the writer, you are the director, and the producer. And just like movies are made from thousands of images, what is the image that you have for yourself, your family, and the rest of the world? Because this will decide if your life will be a horror, drama, or an adventure love story where you are the leading star and the Braveheart hero that saves the day each and every day of your life. Welcome to the greatest show on earth, you. God bless everyone. Take back your power to heal. And remember, this is something that I have put together and I would like to give it as a gift to you. This is what I call the Braveheart Oath. I am love. I am healed. I am Braveheart. Today and every day, from the moment that I rise until I gently close my eyes, I will trust, honor, respect, protect, forgive, and totally love myself first and foremost before anyone else or anything else, so help me God. Because I am, I can, I am healed, I am Braveheart. 3, 2, 1. Find your roar. You're so much more. God bless.